You've never been late before.
I wasn't late.
Then why did I wait in the rain for an hour?
What's that?
AI filmmakers rejoice, Seedance 2 is finally here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I created the shots for the short film in the beginning of the video using Seedance 2.0 on FAL. So let's jump right into this here. We're on fal.ai, and I'm going to search for Seedance 2.0. Very exciting to finally see this here. And we're going to select the first one that comes up. So worth noting right now is that there are different modes of Seedance, and depending on where you've seen it in the past, these things are sort of obscured, but on FAL, everything is really explicitly shown here without any fancy renaming or branding, right? This is pretty much exactly how ByteDance thinks about it. So the first one is image to video fast, reference to video fast, text to video fast. These fast models are going to process faster and they're going to cost less. However, we're going to go right into production mode and be dealing with primarily image to video and reference to video. So let's switch to reference to video here, and we're going to go jump right into the deep end of creating the dialogue scene between the robot and the man. So we're going to have some reference images here, and I'm going to delete those, and we're going to bring in our own. So for this one, I created some images in Midjourney, and I'm adding those in right now, of a man and a robot. Now, it's worth noting right now that there are some pretty heavy guardrails around Seedance 2.0 when it comes to likeness. So you've probably heard of some of the drama that happened with their initial marketing release, and then since that drama and pushback, we basically can't use the likeness of a real person. If you use an image that looks like a real person or a reference video that looks like a real person, it's not going to allow you to generate that. So what I was able to do was use Midjourney V7 and generate a reference of a man and a robot. Midjourney generally has a sort of painterly look, and I don't think that it flags it as being too realistic. On top of that, I used the tactic of putting the man in sunglasses. You can also put them in like a big hat or a mask and just basically obscure their face. However, in this case, Midjourney plus sunglasses allowed me to make a pretty realistic human, but this is the challenge of some of these early models. I hope that eventually Seedance 2.0 removes those limits or comes up with ways to allow us to just use images of, like, say, my face to put me in movies like I could with Kling 3.0. Anyway, Seedance 2.0, you have a hard time really trying to get real people into them. But okay, here we are back with our Midjourney man and our Midjourney robot. So before I get to the prompt, which is pretty spicy here right out of the gate, I'll show you what's available here on FAL. You could upload a reference video. We're not going to be doing that. You can upload reference audio. And importantly, right now on FAL, we have the choice between 480p and 720p. I'm going to go with 720. And we have our duration here, auto, which I pretty much never use, and all the way up to 15. So I'm going to put this at 15 for now. And next, we're going to turn on generate audio, which you can read out a little bit here, but this is going to natively generate music, sound effects, and dialogue as you prompt it. So we definitely want that. And at the bottom, very important here, is that we're going to change our aspect ratio to 16:9. I would typically want to do 21:9 for my cinematic kind of films that I make, but for 16:9, good for YouTube, good for commercial work, right? So 16:9. So there's not that many parameters for this compared to like Kling 3.0, for instance. And now let's paste in the prompt that I used. Okay, so let's get into the prompt. And this is going to cover a lot of ground really quickly in one example about how Seedance 2.0 works. So the first thing I'm going to do is just describe the scene in general. Who are the subjects? What's the location? And anything other than that we want to have like specifically called out. And I wrote, the man and the robot are in a robotics design studio loft, and it's raining outside. The man and his clothing are soaking wet. So from there, we're going to move into timeline notation here, where I'm going to be doing multiple shots in one generation. This is for a couple of reasons, but the main one is so that we have consistency between the characters and the location. Again, if we look back down at what I've referenced, I haven't referenced the location yet. So I'm basically asking Seedance to create this location from just purely prompt, but use the actual characters that I've referenced in. So by doing a multi-shot here, these kind of like multiple shots, we're going to call out and show that when it generates the first shot, it'll be consistent between the next shots that happen after that. So getting back to the prompt again, we set the premise, we set the location, and that the man is soaking wet. And then we're going to do this timeline notation. So we're using square brackets and we say 0 seconds, which is the beginning. Then we do square brackets 3 seconds, 8 seconds, 11 seconds. And this is basically saying when in the video is it going to generate new shots. So the first one is a wide shot of a man and a robot. The robot turns to look at the man. Pretty straightforward. We're looking for an establishing shot here. You could use the word establishing, but a wide shot works well enough for me. And we have one action to sort of cut on, which is going to be the robot looking at the man. At 3 seconds, we say a medium shot of a man. I write f1.3, which medium shot, if you're not familiar with cinematic terms, this is usable in Kling, Nano Banana, VO, etc. We use these on set in real life. A medium shot is basically the head and a little bit of the chest, something like that, your typical medium shot. And I'm writing the notation f1.3, which references real-life photography and basically means to make the depth of field shallow so that the background is out of focus. And then I'm going to put a prompt in that says some dialogue, and it says, the man says, "You've never been late before. What is the problem?" So we're getting a lot done all at once here. We're making all these multiple shots, and we're giving enough specification to make it a medium shot, shallow depth of field, and we're also giving the dialogue all at once here. So it's very much the same as we move through this. We go at 8 seconds. I say I want a medium shot of the robot, f1.3, shallow depth of field, and the robot says, "I wasn't late." And then our final prompt here, before the negative prompt, is at 11 seconds, I say close-up shot of the man, f1.3. The man says, "Then why did I wait in the rain for an hour?" Incredibly compelling story. I made it rather quickly. Very excited to just test out Seedance 2.0. And something important that's going to save you some time and some money here is that you want to say no music, no subtitles. At least from my early tests, it would always add music. This is similar that you would have happen in VO and even Kling. And it would also add subtitles all the time, which we don't want. So that will save you just a little bit there. Make sure you write that in the case that you don't want random music screwing up your edit, and subtitles. We can add that later. So big prompt, 2 references. Let's look at the final result.
You've never been late before.
I wasn't late.
Is the problem? You are nary for dissonance. What is the problem?
I wasn't late.
Then why did I wait in the rain for an hour?
Okay, so looking at the end results, it's pretty impressive, I must say. So I'm going to kind of break down some of my reactions to this. We did ask, first and foremost, for them, for the man to be soaking wet, which in the close-up, he is. In the wide shot, not so much. It also made the robot a little bit wet, which continuity-wise wasn't the best, but that's setting the scene and it being rainy. Really, really good, actually. So if we go to like the first frame again, remember that we only gave it a reference of the 2 characters, and this is just generating a robotics design studio loft, again, from purely text. And I like the design that it came up with. It has kind of a interesting round window top, cool overhead lighting, and it looks like an attic to some, I don't know, like London cool studio, a little bit sci-fi, a little tiny bit retro. I like what it's done. Maybe it's taken in some kind of inspiration from the references, which are from Midjourney, but overall, a pretty cohesive and nice, well-integrated wide shot. Again, mostly from just text with 2 references. So this wide shot, we're going to screenshot, and we're going to be using this to feed a lot of our other videos that we're going to make, again, using Seedance. As we move into our first close-up here, we are staying on the correct side of the line, technically, in that the man is looking to his left here, or to frame left. However, we are not moving the camera, right? So this is basically zooming in, more or less, onto the close-up of the man here, which we didn't specify saying over the shoulder, and there's some specific prompt language that does make it seem more like, that does give us camera angles that would work better for like a Netflix show, but we're not going to cover that in this video. Overall, it's still a passable shot as far as coverage, and technically doesn't break the line. And as we look at the close-up of the robot, also, again, it's keeping pretty good composition. They're on the left third, which is great. Same shot size. And this one does move the camera just a little bit more. And as far as a multi-shot, as far as giving the AI the job of creating the shots, I must say that it's done a good job. I say that a little defeated as a former live action cinematographer, but I have to say Seedance 2.0 does a great job. The wide shot generated it quite well, and the close-ups are pretty passable. Really pretty impressed with this. Now, in the middle is some gibberish. This happens a lot, especially when you give it restrictions of like shot length, that sort of stuff. This multi-shot, this happens in Kling. I haven't seen it that much in VO, but definitely in Kling. Sometimes the dialogue that comes back just doesn't make any sense, right? And then we edit around it. We take what's good and we get rid of what's bad. So this was my main test. This is my main stress test when I'm trying to use any video model. I am a filmmaker. I'm trying to make wide shots, matching medium shots, dialogue scenes. And if we can do that, the rest of it's much easier. And I must say, this is my first time ever using Seedance right here, 2.0 on FAL. I was waiting for it to come out on FAL. That this first generation, I am really impressed with. The quality, even being 720p, has this really cool look to it, this sharpness, and it does a great job with the overall image. Definitely, Seedance 2 is as good as everyone said it was. Let's look at some other features of Seedance 2.0 using the wide shot that we created already. So again, on FAL, I'm going to type in Seedance 2.0 once again here, and we're going to go to image to video this time. So image to video is a little bit different to reference to video in that it's only images, whereas references can also have video, can also have audio. In this case, what we're looking for with this is we're going to change from the default image here to a first frame and a last frame. So that first frame is going to be our wide shot here. Where is it? I took a screenshot of this here. And then I went and generated a shot of the robot at the table using Google Nano Banana Pro on FAL here. I'm not going to show that process. But basically, what I want to show here is that we have our typical first frame and last frame. I don't actually have the last frame saved to this computer, but say it was something like this. We would put that in, and then we would hit generate. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are 720p. That's our max resolution right now. Our shot length, we are going to generate audio. Might as well. And for the most part, we could leave the aspect ratio at auto because you're using two images. I suppose if they were different images, you'd have to designate. But it wouldn't be bad to just say, hey, this is 16 by 9 as well. So again, first frame, last frame, and then we would put our prompt in. My prompt was something like the robot walks over to the table and starts typing, right? Like really, really pretty basic. It's mostly about talking about the transition between the first and the last frame, what happens in between, and like what's the action there. So let's go ahead and look at that end result. Great, so this is the end result. Looking at requests on FAL, you can see all the metadata. You can see that it costs $2.40. That's all pretty helpful here. And just watching it back, again, we know our first frame and our last frame. I generated the last frame in Nano Banana. It does a great job of having the robot walk. Seedance 2, known for its physics and understanding of the world. And if you look at the joints on the robot's legs and its arms, it's all moving in a very logical way. Even though this is just a made-up Mid-Journey robot, Seedance 2 can look at this and be like, this is how it moves. Pretty good. So let's look at another example from Seedance 2.0 using our image to video model. And we'll watch a rather amusing shot here. At least I think it's amusing. And we'll see that this shot, again, costs about $2.40. How long is the shot total? It's 8 seconds. And the prompt was the robot jumps through the window, falls down onto the street below, and breaks apart. The camera follows the robot out of the window. And the way that we did this is we took our start frame, again, in Seedance 2.0, image to video on FAL. We just added this prompt. That's it. So this is a lot simpler. And this is what we got watching it back. The robot jumps out the window. The glass, I was trying to make a shot that would show physics, like the glass shattering. I think it does a great job. Watch it again, just splash, hilarious. There's a little bit of weird morphing on the way down, and then he explodes as he hits the ground. Really good. Something that's also interesting is that this turned into a multi-shot without having to prompt it. I was thinking of basically like one fluid shot where like the camera would follow them out the window. That didn't happen, but I am pretty happy with the results. Of course, right here, boom, there's a cut. Pretty funny. And in the final edit, I cut this in between with a shot of him reacting. Oh yeah, I loved how this one came out. I love the animation on the face. Super funny. This one's 12 seconds, which was $3.60. And it turned into like a horror movie at the end. But I was basically looking for reaction shots of the robot and the man. So this is the shot I ended up using. And if we look at the prompt, this multi-shot did work out. So the first one, I'm trying to get multiple shots from one generation here. I say close-up shot on the robot who says, what's that? And then at 4 seconds, we're asking for a close-up shot of the man looking confused. That's the shot we used. And then this other one didn't work out so well. 7 seconds, close-up shot of the man looking at the robot jump out of the window. He covers his face to protect himself. Didn't turn out how I liked, so I ended up not using it. It's like it turned into a horror movie, like he's being attacked there. So another feature of Seedance 2.0 that I wanted to test out and show was doing a storyboard. So this storyboard, I basically took the wide shot that we generated of the man and the robot, and I went into Nano Banana Pro on FAL, and I said, make a storyboard of the man and the robot. And I said, the story is the man is trapped outside in the rain, and the robot is ignoring him, which is sort of the half-baked premise of this whole short film here. And then all I did was put this 2x2 grid that it made into Seedance 2.0 on FAL, image to video, no prompt. This is no prompt. It's like, here's the storyboard, no prompt at all, no text prompt. And this is what it came back with. This is 12 seconds, and it was $3.60. Oh, I lost it. Let's go back to it. Here it goes. So I'll play it from the beginning here. So at first, it's animating all the frames at once. Interesting. But then it automatically is up-resing the shots, animating them, and then putting them into one edit. It doesn't 100% match the storyboard, but overall, really impressive. Next on the list here is, of course, a lovely fight scene. It wouldn't be Seedance 2.0 without making things fight. So this isn't part of the story. It didn't make the final edit, but I was like, okay, it's Seedance. Let me see if these robots can fight. Do they have hands? And they do. And the fight scene, even though it's kind of hilarious, it does make sense. It's just, this cost $3. Was that worth it? I think it was. Pretty funny to me. Again, didn't make the edit, but the prompt was the robot and the man to fight. The man tries to push and kick the robot, but the robot gently blocks and deflects the attacks. Handheld camera. I would say, if anything, the handheld camera is very interesting. It's walking in and it's handheld, and it's quite lovely handheld work, I must say. Again, kind of defeated as a real-life cinematographer and a virtual cinematographer. We've done 3D cinematics and whatnot where we tracked the cameras. It's pretty good handheld camera work, so I like it. And one of the last things that I really wanted was the man transforming into the robot. I think if you've been on the internet and been watching Seedance 2 videos, there's all these really cool transforming sequences. And well, I wanted to make my own. The only problem is that, of course, in this case, the man doesn't look anything like the robot, and that's obviously going to make some sort of funny results. So this cost $3.36. It was a 10-second generation. And this is back in reference to video mode, or the Omni mode, if you want to call it that. And I basically put in the reference of the man, the reference of the robot, and then the reference of our wide shot, the man and the robot. And I said the man transforms into a robot. The camera orbits around the man. So there's a lot going on. We're going to have this action of transforming, multiple references, and plus the environment. And then we have the command, the prompt, that the camera is going to kind of rotate around the whole thing, right? The subject is the man here. And I did a bunch of them, and they're all pretty weird, but this is the one that I like the best, even though it's possibly a little scary. So cool camera move. He turns into a very scary robot, and then in the end turns into the cute robot, and it does such a great job animating the eyes. So didn't make the final film, but we wanted to just test out the kind of Seedance, specials here are the transformation sequences. I think it did a good job, given that the man and the robot look nothing alike. And the fight scenes worked out pretty well, and Seedance 2 is a wild time. So that wraps it up for this video. If you're interested in checking out Seedance 2.0, I heavily suggest fal.ai. It is really fast there. These are generating really quickly. The prices are not obscured with tokens and subscriptions and whatnot. It just shows you how much it's going to cost. And of course, if you're a developer looking to build apps on top of Seedance 2.0, Fal's API is the best, hands down. That wraps it up for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.